everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here for the Spectacles Developer Panel. We are so happy to have all of you and see you here in person. We are lucky to be joined today by 3 very skilled Spectacles developers who have been working in secret on creating Spectacles lenses over the past year. I'm so excited to dive into your experiences, to geek out over specs a little bit, and ultimately, our goal is to inspire a room full of developers to be excited to start building on specs. To give you a little bit of background on the lovely people that are sitting next to me, I would love to introduce them. Meet Blake Gross. Blake is an experienced software engineer and designer in the AR/MR space. His core role in DB Creations is leading the engineering of products and the future product direction. He has previous experience as a senior engineer and tech lead in the mixed reality space. I think we got cut off.
Yeah,
but
Microsoft.
At Microsoft, thank you so much. Introducing Lauren Cason. Lauren is a creative technologist. After getting started in technology as an intern at MIT Game Lab, she went on to work on award-winning games such as Monument Valley 2. After working as a prototyper at Apple, she was the creative director of XR at Meow Wolf. She is now the co-founder of Refract, a studio that builds location-based experiences. Meet David, give him a round of applause. Meet David Wang. David is an experienced senior engineer who got his start working in the IoT entertainment and mixed reality projects with Disney Labs. He has previous experience working on a startup 3D collaboration platform, in addition to working on multiple Niantic projects as part of the game studio Nerd Ninjas. And to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've gotten to be along for the ride of Spectacles since our previous version in 2021. Let me take you back to give you a little bit of a peek into the experience. We launched the former version of Spectacles back in 2021, and I have been working with developers to provide feedback and give information on the product and create experiences. Since then, I've been working alongside these talented developers behind the scenes to develop and produce developer-built lenses on specs such as DB Creations' Tiny Motors, Niantic's Peridot Beyond, and Refract AR's Ojo Diferentes. Let's give them a huge round of applause for all the hard work these developers have dedicated to their lenses. Thank you. I'd love to dive right in. Tell me the story of your development journey. Blake, I'll pass to you.
Yeah, so, well, we're very happy that Snap chose us to be partners. We've loved working with Snap for the last several years on creating groundbreaking games in the AR space. Our latest game that you can play on the Spectacles, if you've picked them up, is called Tiny Motors. It's a arcade game where we kind of took RC vehicles that you might kind of play with in your house, but we brought them to Spectacles and made it so that, every time I get an RC helicopter, I break it in 5 minutes because I crash into the ceiling, the rotors break, and it's that's it. So with this, you can fly it into whatever you want and it doesn't break and it's great. So we have 4 different RC vehicles in that game. We have a helicopter, a jet, a car, and a tank. We have 2 different game modes per. It's a fully fleshed out game for this device, and we have a bunch of fun, little arcadey experiences within it. And it's all spatially aware, so it actually collides and interacts with the real world and spawns objects intelligently within that space. And the kind of main Spectacles feature we use is the custom controller. We think that being able to directly have a controller that people are familiar with already as an interface, it makes it really easy to enter into kind of doing stuff in AR versus having to learn an entirely new kind of UX or control paradigm. In terms of the development journey, the thing that I kind of want to let everyone know about is that stuff often isn't linear. It's not like you have some genius idea and then that's just what comes out the other end. It was a long road. We started off building a small prototype of kind of the core of the experience for the Spectacles 121 in an experience called Table Choppers. We then got the opportunity to pitch for building this more full game for the 5th generation Spectacles. And our original idea was a much more kind of massive scope than what we ended up with. And we definitely were overcomplicating what we needed to do. And we were trying to do skeuomorphic, and we had a sandbox, and you would drive the vehicles to enter into any of the challenges, and it was a PlayStation 1 game, and it was all crazy, and it was definitely biting off way more than we needed to. And we figured out really quickly that it was not playing towards the strengths of the device, and that it was going to create a really complicated setup flow. So I'd say the first stage of development was kind of blue sky, Then we really had to find the fun, find the core, figure out what the fun interaction mechanics that we could have in the game were. And once we actually built 16 different modes out and then cut that down to 8. So it wasn't like, hey, let's just ship as much stuff as possible. It's like, let's really figure out what's fun to do on this device. From there, we got a ton of feedback around polish items. Something that I'll be like repeating as a theme is that Snap really cares a lot about UX. I think maybe more than like almost any other tech company. And so we really took that to heart, and we spent a long time trying to polish our lens in order to make it a really quality experience for users to be able to get into. And then the last phase of development was adding spatial capabilities. And that was fun because there were some interesting, unique UX challenges there, but it also added this other level to the game, like I was talking about, where the vehicles now actually interact with the space.
Yeah, Lauren.
So the project that we helped with is called Os Diferentes. It was commissioned a couple years ago by the city of Santa Fe. And it was originally a mobile AR project where 10 artists from Santa Fe, which is where we live, reinterpreted historic sites, monuments, and contested plaques in downtown Santa Fe. The project went over well. The artists all really, really loved what came out of it. Loved being able to work in AR. And a couple years later, Snap approached and said, hey, would you like to bring some of those projects to Spectacles? So the 3 artists we worked with were Erin Quinate, Olivia Romo, and Cliff Fragua. So their 3 experiences. It started with bringing the artists to the studio and letting them have the chance to put the devices on, showing them some demos. I think like the artists who we were working with were a jeweler, a sculptor who sculpts with stone, and a poet by trade. So having the chance to spend time with the device, go away, come back, spend some more time with the device, come up with questions was important. They all wanted to add lots of stuff after seeing the glasses. There's so much more that they were able to do and express when people were able to use their hands, both hands, instead of just the phone, being able to walk around it, being able to really be immersed in it. Especially Olivia was really excited by that. Her piece changed a lot from mobile to the Spectacles. Yeah, so I'd say that was like a big part of our development journey was, giving the artists the opportunity to like be in the headset and see how it was different.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so interesting. David, we gotta wait for the applause. You have the most interesting things to say. Yeah.
So Peridot Beyond, for those who haven't tried it yet, is a new way to visualize the Peridot AR companion pet experience. One of our goals was to have a series of magical moments that simulated your real life experience with like a pet. One of the times of validation for me was that we have a feature that's crouching to kind of summon the pet. And while I was testing that feature to pet the dot, my dog, Rocco, would be in the vicinity and would also come along and try to get in on the action. And then if my roommate's dog is also in the vicinity, now I'm petting two dogs, not dots, instead of testing what I was trying to test. So that was definitely a moment of validation. Another thing that we tried to do was try to simulate the mobile aspect of the device. So as the player looks around, walks, even if I'm just doing laundry, I want the dot to have the correct behaviors that I would expect from something that was a living creature. Our prototype is something that we started off with to kind of prove out these kind of features, seeing if Lens Studio had the capabilities to build what we wanted to. Turns out it did, and it was improving as we were also developing. So what we have now is pretty much the hard work of my development team and just trying to like get those experiences just right.
Yeah. Thank you. Another big round of applause for all the work. Yeah. Congrats. Something that we've found when working with developers, and I'm sure you noticed yourself, is that building with spectacles can be very different from building with other wearable devices. The form factor and the different capabilities really make the experience very different. So it can be challenging, but also provides a lot of opportunity for developers. What do you felt the most different building for this device? Lauren, I'll pass to you.
So pretty much my entire career in XR has been about location-based experiences. And that's always been really awkward because doing iteration on location is really hard with most devices. You've got to like drag your PC tower somewhere, and like you probably got a lot of wires and you need good Wi-Fi. And like the 2021 Spectacles was the first time where I was like, I worked on a piece that was about like road signs in New Mexico and pullouts, and you were able to just like I was able to work off my hotspot with like a laptop, like in pretty remote locations as long as there was enough cell service. So if you want to do something location-based, like go to the location, it will work if you've got hotspot capabilities on your phone. And that's so important for location-based experiences. Like, you might not realize that it gets really hot there and that you're gonna hit thermal way quicker than you're gonna in your studio. Or maybe you're working with something that's gonna go over a statue, and when people wanna see the whole experience, they're gonna back up. And if there's a road behind them, that's really bad. You don't want that. There's all sorts of stuff that is gonna come up that you're only gonna get by being on site. And you can be on site with this device, so go to the place.
Yeah. For us, I think the biggest difference that I identify between the Spectacles and other devices is, like I mentioned, kind of Snap's design vision. Like I said, Snap really cares a lot about design, and we kind of went in with our own preconceived notion of what user experience setup flows were like from other devices. At one point, we actually built this flow where users were defining custom bounding boxes for the room and doing a really like verbose room setup, kind of like something you do on Quest 3. Because in our mind, the most important thing was getting as much spatial data as possible. And when we showed that to the team, we kind of got a feedback of like, what is this? It's taking me forever to complete this. I just want to play with your fun vehicles, and this is getting in the way. And so getting that kind of feedback really, and it was kind of, that was kind of the whole challenge for adding spatial to our game, was figuring out how do we balance having enough data to make the game interesting with having a very simplified user flow. So I think Snap's commitment to this different view of AR, where it's not just about creating, like trying to get as much data as possible, but really thinking about user-centric approaches, thinking about how to get users into the experience quickly, has really shaped our application. The other thing that it is true for all these kind of see-through headsets is that there is still a real trade-off between display type and field of view. So there is still a more limited field of view on this device than maybe other mixed reality headsets. So we put a lot of thought into that, from like our menu design, like fits the FOV. We made it so all of our tutorials fit inside the FOV. We thought a lot about spawning. We got a lot of feedback of like, hey, it's not fun when I'm playing the game and I don't see another object right away to go get. And we were like, okay, so we did frustum-based spawning of our objects so that you could go see your next objective right away. We also use direction indicators as a mechanism for like when your vehicle goes outside of the screen, you can see where it is because it can get lost really quickly. So I'd say that's something really important for developers to think about is one, not filling the whole screen. There's nothing worse than when the entire screen is filled with content, and it really shows the limitation of the device, and it also isn't very comfortable. But then also making it just really usable for any end user so that they're not kind of like looking all over the place for what to do next.
Yeah, I'll add to the out-of-view stuff. We actually do a lot of that also just to take advantage of the field of view. One of the things is Peridot presence, as we call it, is that instead of continuously following in your field of view, it'll have like a certain amount of time before it'll actually float back and be like, hey, remember me? But we also have things like roaming and stuff like that, so it'll sometimes just like run out of view and just kind of like simulate actual pet-like experiences. And then we have an out-of-view indicator, like a trail, so that the user actually still knows where the dot is. And it'll come back into view whenever it's ready. Another thing that was different about building on this device was elevation. So because this is an outdoor device, we kind of expect that the user will be going like up and down ramps at like parks or like up and down stairs. So we have to kind of like do constant checks of like what is the ground plane in order to have certain features still work, like summoning. It's determined by a player's height and they have to like go down a certain level. If you're going downstairs, for example, then we kind of have to adjust that. And like if the dot's already walking on the ground plane and you're going down the stairs, like how does it behave in that kind of situation? And then I guess the third thing is hand tracking. So got a hands-on experience with the hand tracking with the SIK. Yeah, it's very integrated in the OS. Like the device onboarding is pretty much all hand tracking. It teaches you how to pinch, teaches you how to raycast with your hand. We try to utilize that as much as possible within our own lens with like feeding, foraging, just like telling the dot where to go. And it's trying to find that balance between like guiding the player or just like having them figure things out by themselves.
Totally. I'm so glad you brought up field of view. I think that's the number one thing, the number one piece of feedback I give to developers, and it's just always field of view stuff. So yeah, makes complete sense. The developer experience overall is extremely important to us. We've worked to provide a lot of tools and technical capabilities on Lens Studio, specifically with developers in mind. So I would like to know, what tools are your favorite? David, I'll pass to you.
Yeah, so the inspect preview tool, so like the preview in general is great for like simulating real life experiences, and then the preview, inspect preview allows you to pause it while you're simulating something, and then you could see like what the live hierarchy is of active scene objects. But probably the most favorite is the client lens zip. So it's something that we requested early during prototype phase, I believe. But pretty much it allows you to load to the device pretty seamlessly. Before we had to send a project zip to someone in order to test something, and then they would have to load the project, wait for all of the things to finish loading, and then send it to device, and that would just be very tedious, especially when we have a team process of having like merge reviews, where we have like a design approval process, we have code reviews, and then we want to include like a client lens zip so that people can actually test it quickly. This way they could just open a new project, and the file is pretty lightweight compared to the project zip also, and they're able to test pretty much immediately. So that's really expedited our process.
Yeah, like David mentioned, the preview is really essential for us. I mean, whenever it's still, it's very quick, especially opposed to other devices, to deploy to spectacles and be testing on device really quickly and doing fast iteration flow. But as a developer, you still want to do as much in editor as possible. So having that preview window where you can simulate all those spatial capabilities and develop your algorithms without having to deploy to device is super, super, super useful. I'd say for us, the other thing that's really useful, like we're building games, they're very content heavy. As people know, we want to put a lot of audio and textures and all that stuff in. Lens size is still pretty limited, so remote assets are essential to creating these like larger experiences that exist on spectacles.
I think for us, custom location AR was a real game changer. You can take those scans from the actual device itself, which is pretty cool. Like you can make the scan from the headset, and being able to have an untethered device that people could walk up to something and there's not a QR code or anything that they got to scan, and it just works and content anchors correctly, and that happens in a headset. That was our first time being able to do that. So,
Really, yeah, it's easy for us at Snap to say that this product is a huge leap from the 2021 version. But Lauren, Blake, you had the chance to work on the 2021 version, and I would love to hear from you as developers. What do you feel like the biggest change is with this new device? Lauren, go ahead.
tracking has gotten really good. Like hand tracking especially, I feel like works really nicely. Plane tracking is pretty consistent. And then the custom location stuff. All of that I'd say like with the 2021 device, I was getting image tracking like 50% of the time, and now like it all pretty much works.
For us, we built our initial prototype on the Specs 2021, and I think you would basically like put them on, play a little bit, and then they would overheat. So now you can play through our entire game, and the device doesn't overheat. I know they talked about it in the technical session today, but I really think that the technical capabilities of the device are very impressive. The fact that it's not overheating very quickly, that it has a 45-minute battery life, like that is very impressive, and especially compared to what we could do on Specs 2021. Like, it is a huge difference in terms of capability set. For us, the other thing is we had a prototype controller, and the way that would work is you had to hold it in front of your face to calibrate, and then you would be able to actually like use it. It was our own like custom app or whatever. So the fact that that's all just integrated now within the Spectacles app that ships with the headset makes developing with custom controllers so much easier, and it's just like a seamless process now. So that was also like really helpful.
For sure. Yeah, I think that the runtime of experiences has drastically changed what you're able to do and what kind of concepts you're able to come up with. I think that's the biggest thing that I've heard from developers. They'll come to me and say, okay, so are we thinking about something that's 5 minutes long? And I was like, no, let's think bigger. And that's been really fun to do over the past little bit. Being part of a developer beta is a pretty hands-on experience, especially here, like you've mentioned with the feedback that we've given you, Blake. Our goal is really to help developers grow and evolve while working on specs. Was there a specific piece of feedback that you guys found particularly helpful, David?
Yeah, so Snap has been really generous with letting us do on-site testing. And one of these moments, the walking feature just got implemented. So if you're going a certain speed, away from the dot, or no, if you're going a certain speed, then it'll start walking with you eventually. It'll either hover or be on the ground walking, running. And Sophia was testing that feature, and she was trying to like pet the dot, but she was going too fast. Like when I was testing myself, I like go a little slower, like with my own dog, but she was like, come over here, like I'm going to pet you. And it kept on running away because it was activating the walking, and she was like, and then because of that feedback, implemented some pretty easy logic, and now like when you approach the dot, it won't run away. And if you go like away from it, then it's an obvious thing, but it was something that was found on-site that was very helpful.
Yeah, I think the feedback that we got was just getting people into the experience as quickly as possible, which was a little different than what we've seen before when we built stuff with like a Magic Leap or a HoloLens, where with those experiences we were finding that people were so overwhelmed by the experience of a headset and like seeing holograms and the refraction that they were seeing from the visors and stuff, that like you really needed to onboard people kind of slowly and like give them a chance to orient themselves. And with this, it felt different. You could really just put people straight into stuff, which was new.
Yeah, ours is very similar, where we went through like there's kind of two parts of this, but the first one is, like I said, we had like this polish phase, and so we kind of got our game in kind of a fun state, and we were kind of showing it around to Snap, and they were like, wow, there's just so much friction still to get into your experience. So we went through this not long, but we went through this kind of step-by-step call where it was like, okay, here's all the friction points currently in your experience, and here's all the ways that you can simplify it in order to get users into it quicker. And that was really, really valuable for us to kind of trim the fat out of the experience and make it so that it really followed those Snap design guidelines of getting the users into the content quickly, like you were saying, and that we're no longer in this space where we have to be as hand-holdy with the users as like when we were doing stuff on like HoloLens or Magic Leap. The other thing was, as we were developing spatial, I still had that mindset of, oh, we need all the data. We can't let someone accidentally fly their helicopter through a wall. And then the feedback we got was like, no, I like to sit on my couch and play your game, and I don't want to have to get up from the couch and look 360 and then sit back down. Like, I actually want to just be able to sit there, look around, and start playing. And so that was another like kind of mindset correction of like, oh yeah, we don't need perfect data in order to get users into the experience. Like I'm always inclined to be like, we need perfect data, but you can use a lot of heuristics to still make it a fun experience for users.
100%. Okay, last question before I hand it over to these people to give you some great questions. let's think, future of specs. All of your wildest AR dreams have come true, and you get to be doing anything that you want to be doing. What does that future look like, and what are you building? Blake, passing it back to you.
There's this anime I like called Den Coil, which is about these like children who run around with a drone and they play AR games together all day. It's kind of like the thing Evan was talking about this morning of like he wants to see his kids running around outside and playing AR and be like, oh, they're on their computers all the time. It's kind of a similar thing of like, it would be fun to see like, you know, kids running around the city with their AR glasses playing games together. And just kind of like this future of play where it's collaborative, it's together, it's these shared experiences. That really motivates us, and we've developed a lot of kind of collaborative experience in the past, and we're looking to do that in the future because of that. The second thing we're kind of really excited for is just, and this is like far future looking, but just being able to do stuff that's really intelligent to users' environment out in the world. So like city scale and park scale AR experiences that are kind of seamless and everywhere. They're not bespoke. Right now, a lot of that stuff's kind of bespoke, kind of like the location-based stuff you were talking about. So I think like we always have these like grand visions of like, oh, it'd be so cool if we had this park scale game and it actually went behind, you could use that as the battlefield or whatever, and it actually responded to the trees. And so being able to build those more rich, intelligent experiences that are multi-user really excites us.
I've spent a lot of time working with artists, and I loved that. Like when I worked in games, my favorite thing was working with concept artists who had like a really weird style and would be like, look at this abstract thing. How do we make it 3D? But I think it'd be great if like they didn't need me. So I think I would love to be in a world where like the artists who we got to work with on this project could build that stuff by themselves, and that the tools were easy enough and had been consistent enough over a period of time. They're not having to relearn something every year. They don't need to learn like 3 different code languages. That it's like accessible enough that you don't need an engineer to help you build the things you want to build.
Yeah, and for me, I think something that's attainable within like the next 10 years is just having a more universal guideline for interactions for outdoor device play. I think developers are still struggling to find that kind of UX for not only prioritizing safety, but also just like the most practical way to do certain things. But yeah, that's
Yeah, absolutely. All right, time is now yours. I would love if you could pick the brains of these developers all day, but we just have a few minutes. We can pick probably 1 or 2 questions. Feel free to jump up, but I know there's a mic right here if you'd like to use it.
Okay. I have 2 questions. We can do rapid fire.
Let's do it.
You were kind of answering this a little bit, but if you had a magic wand and you can make anything happen on either Lens Studio or Spectacles today, what would your magic wand do?
I'm sorry about this, but the mute button.
Yes.
Yep. It's almost there.
All right, that's an easy magic wand situation. Hopefully, Charmaine. Yeah.
Taking notes.
Custom locations and camera kit.
Custom locations and camera kit. Okay, someone's in a rush. There we go. All right.
I want world mesh access in the code so bad. I've been asking for it forever. We have to do a bunch of heuristics right now to get around that. So that would be really, really, really nice.
Okay, my second question.
Do it.
Sorry.
Do it.
Your biggest surprise can be positive or negative. Your biggest surprise.
Working on specs.
You're working on specs.
Oh.
How well it worked. Yeah, it's just getting my hands on like Abbott and just like seeing like the improvements over time just from like prototype phase. Like I'm very impressed. The feedback that we've given is like they've pretty much all been addressed, so it's like, thank you.
Yeah, that it worked well outside. I remember being told that, I think by you, and being like, sure. And then it did. So that was a surprise.
Yeah,
It can be negative.
It can be negative.
It
Oh,
can
you
be
want me to give it negative?
Like, we'll be mean.
Make it spicy.
I did think I think I did think that the ID was going to be smaller than it actually was, especially compared to specs 2021. So while I was impressed with the hardware overall, I still feel like they're a bit bulky and went a bit back in the design direction that 2021 kind of set as like the standard.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. No, the balance between.
Sophia always wants me to do the bad guy.
I could add a little on
Has to be, you know?
Yeah.
Right, question for all of you. What did you find the most effective way of getting your users' attention?
The most effective way to get your users' attention?
Yeah, when you have something you want them to see and they don't happen to be looking at it right then.
Yeah. Our design lead has been pretty great at kind of like visualizing these kind of situations. So like whenever, for us, our input is like the pinch and the raycast. So wherever we have the user kind of interacting, that's where we kind of have the content. And we have like modals and stuff that are like kind of uniform, so that it's consistent throughout the application. We also have like a hand menu, and like everything is in focus there, and like everything that you interact with is like bam and then bam, so it's like in focus, in view. That's kind of how we handle it.
Yeah, the hand menu is super helpful. Once people know that that's there and an option. And then we also had sort of little tooltips like around the scene that people are able to interact with when they want.
Nice.
But also, like, honestly, I feel like we're still figuring that one out. I don't know that I actually have a good answer to your question yet.
I mean, yeah, for us, we try to just put everything in front of the user all the time. And then we use direction indicators when stuff gets lost, but it's very difficult if you spawn something outside of the user's FOV to get them to look there. So you just can't do that, really.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the questions. One more. Bring it in.
Rapid fire.
Bring it in.
Super quick question. One of the things that's like super fleshed out today is like the way video game controllers kind of map to different inputs and stuff. What is an input that you feel like you were not able to do or had to kind of creatively work around when building for specs?
That's such a good question.
I don't know if we kind of experienced that. We were kind of like utilizing what was already kind of introduced through the device. So we tried to use pinching. We even integrated like a long pinch for like foraging. So we have like an indicator that shows like it's about to load. So there were some creative ways of working around it, but we mainly used what was existing.
Yeah, I'm left-handed, so like I found some hand interactions or like where the menu's supposed to be, like a lot of that stuff kind of awkward. And like I guess I'd throw this out to the specs team of like not everybody has hands, or not everybody has two hands. So, and I think a lot of the interactions are like very dependent on that, and would love to see how they're going to solve that.
I guess a tangential answer, since we'd use an actual game controller, is that it was not obvious how the vehicle should control. My initial thought was that you would want direct control of them like you would want an actual RC vehicle, and that ended up being really, really, really confusing. And so we actually make it so that the vehicle moves forward along the way that the user is like looking, basically, and that felt way more intuitive. But it took a bit of R&D to get there, and it was very confusing at first. So I think being in the headset adds this kind of, it's not the same as, because you have camera control in a normal video game. You don't have camera control here, you like are the camera. So you actually have to readapt control paradigms if you're doing something like custom controller to rethink about how avatars like work in the world based on user orientation and not, you can't just control that orientation.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Awesome. Thank you all. Can we get another big round of applause for all of the amazing work that these developers have done?